This week, we are focusing on Surrealism. What is Surrealism? The Surrealist movement developed in Europe in the aftermath of World War I and was largely influenced by Dada, which was another art movement. The idea behind it was to unlock the unconscious mind by creating dreamlike artwork. The characteristics of Surrealism are dreamlike scenes and symbolic images, unexpected, illogical juxtapositions, bizarre arrangements of ordinary objects, personal iconography, visual puns, distorted figures and biomorphic shapes, and primitive or childlike designs. Famous Surrealists. Salvador Dali. He was a Spanish Surrealist artist, renowned for his precise painting skills and the striking and bizarre images in his work. So in this artwork, which is The Persistence of Memory, it appears to be out of a dream. It looks illogical due to the way the objects within the artwork are presented. So, for example, the melting clocks. This is not something that really would make sense in everyday life. It shows an unexpected juxtaposition of objects that have no relation to each other. So, for example, this random tree placed on what looks like a table that's in the middle of a landscape where this wouldn't normally be displayed has a melting clock on it. These objects normally would have no relationships with each other, and the only thing that's bringing them together is how unexpected all of these elements are. There are visual puns. The melting and distorted clocks symbolize the erratic and unreliable passage of time that we experience while dreaming. That's what was really focused on in this artwork, which we can also hint at from the title, which is The Persistence of Memory. There's a distorted biomorphic shape that makes the viewers have to try and guess what it is right here. So if you look at it, right here it almost looks like eyelashes. From this angle you might think that it's a horse or something of that sort, but it looks like a beak right here. You really have to analyze this in order to figure out what it is. Frida Kahlo. This is a famous quote by her. "They thought I was a surrealist, but I wasn't. I never painted dreams. I painted my own reality." Frida Kahlo was a Mexican painter known for her many portraits, self-portraits, and works inspired by the nature and artifacts of Mexico. Inspired by the country's pop culture, she explored identity, post-colonialism, gender, class, and race in Mexican society in her artwork. So some of the places that we can see symbolism in this piece are with the vines that are growing out of her stomach. She actually could not have a child, which was something she represented in her artwork a lot. Notice there are veins coming out of these leaves. There's a crack in the ground that could symbolize things in her life that aren't going the way that she had expected. This is a self-portrait, and that makes this personal iconography. It has to do with her own identity, as well as experiences that she has had. The illogical juxtaposition of herself and the vines is dreamlike and unrealistic. Obviously, this is not imagery that you would see in real life. Transparency was also utilized for the stomach, which is a key characteristic in some artwork that was a part of Surrealism. Pablo Picasso. He was a Spanish painter, sculptor, printmaker, ceramicist, and theater designer who spent most of his adult life in France. The woman that he was depicting here in his artwork, Weeping Woman, was very distorted. Her features did not look realistic at all. We can tell that she is distorted because the eyes do not line up, they're not symmetrical, the nose is on the side of the face rather than where it normally would be placed. The features on the face just are not how they normally would be presented. And this is intentional, it's part of this style. It is very expressive. The style is almost childlike. It does not look realistic. The color choices and shape choices make the woman look illogically represented. There's juxtaposition with the color change right here in the middle of the face. You can see this color change right here. It is very obvious. Your attention is supposed to be drawn there. This is a very noticeable expression, the sadness that is in her face, the pain and suffering that she must be going through. And it was supposed to be symbolic, so this was a personal artwork for him. It had personal iconography. One being a woman he was in a relationship with, and the other being his mother. His mother wrote to him from Barcelona that smoke from the burning city during the fighting made her eyes water. So this was an experience that she had that was personal to him because it was his mother, and he put it into this artwork. But he did always see the weeping woman as the woman that he was in a relationship with. He saw her as somebody that went through a lot of pain and suffering, and when he looked at this artwork, he saw that woman. Here are some art terms in Spanish that I would like for you to know. All of the artists that we have looked at are Spanish artists. Artista is artist. Pintura is paint. Los colores is colors. Paleta is palette. Pastelas al óleo is oil pastels. Arte is art. Pintor or pintura is painter. Cámara is camera. Lápiz is pencil. And surrealismo is surrealism. Please excuse how I pronounce some of these. I do not speak Spanish, but I am trying my best. Surrealist techniques. How to make the ordinary look extraordinary. Scale, levitation, juxtaposition, dislocation, transparency, and transformation. The first being scale. This is the overall physical size of an artwork or objects in the artwork. So over here we have this giant apple that takes up that entire room. That's not the typical scale that we would see for an apple. This down here, you can see this head and the hands coming out of this building. It looks very dreamlike. It is definitely a surrealist piece, but you can tell that scale was something used in this to make it look dreamlike. The same with this one over here. This large glass, colored pencil, comb, all of these objects look much larger than they typically would. Levitation. This is another technique in surrealist artwork. It is making objects float that do not normally float. So over here you can see all of these people that are floating in thin air. On this side there's this large boulder with a castle on top. Logically, these would not normally float. Juxtaposition. Joining more than one image together in an impossible or illogical combination. So down here you have the sunrise that is being juxtaposed with this egg shape. So it looks like it's the yolk of an egg. On this side, the cloud looks like it is part of a hot air balloon. Now, these things are not realistic, they're not logical, they could not happen in real life. So that juxtaposition between these two different images that are being brought together is one of the techniques used in surrealist artwork. Dislocation. This is taking an object from its usual location and placing it in an unfamiliar one. So for example, this watch down here, normally it would not just be propped up on a beach like that, but it is in this image. You have this giant spoon that is out of its normal place. And over here we have a train that's coming right out of a fireplace. These objects are all out of their normal places. Transparency. Making objects more or less transparent than they normally are. So this curtain right here, where you can see straight through it, you wouldn't normally be able to do that. Over here, the body of this ship is see-through, so you're able to see the water through it, the sky through it. It's not how you would normally see this object. Over here, it looks like the canvas that's on this easel does not exist. You can still see the edge of it right here, but it looks way more transparent than it normally would. Transformation. To change an object in an unusual way. So over here you have a piece of paper that is turning into a bird. On this artwork you can see that it's a tree that is actually an axe and it is being cut down. And this one is a pair of scissors that turn into snakes on the ends. Surreal landscape drawing. You will create a landscape using an environment of your choice. So the city, mountains, ocean, plains, anywhere that you would like to set your location. Apply a surreal element using at least one surreal technique. Those are juxtaposition, transformation, scale, dislocation, levitation, and transparency. Use reference photographs to produce accurate details of the objects. Use symbolism that is related to your identity. So I'd like for you to choose 3 things about yourself that you would like to include in your artwork, and you will use a symbol for each of those. Move the viewer's eye around the work by using balance and contrast. Draw lightly in pencil first before adding color to the artwork. For this week, by Sunday at midnight, I would like for you to submit a photograph of your progress on your artwork. You do not need to have this finished this week. However, you need to have the pencil outlines done and submitted. We will be adding color next week.